The beep came sharp and final, the kind of sound that doesn't echo in the air but in the chest, and Rachel knew before the cashier even lifted her eyes that something had gone wrong. Her stomach tightened as if it had been waiting for this moment all day, all week, all year. The words that followed were soft and practiced, but they landed heavy, and suddenly the bright pharmacy lights felt accusatory, like they were illuminating more than just the counter. What if this were you, standing there with a tired child pressed against your shoulder and a line forming behind you, realizing that the fragile balance you'd been holding together had just tipped in public? Rachel shifted her weight, adjusting the sleepy heaviness of her son Noah against her collarbone. He was warm and limp, his cheek damp with the kind of fever that never fully breaks but never fully leaves either. The bottle of children's antibiotics sat on the counter between her and the cashier, small and ordinary, yet impossibly out of reach in that moment. She thought of the way Noah had whimpered in his sleep the night before, the way she had promised him things would be better in the morning. If you were in her place, would you feel the same heat rising behind your eyes, the same urge to disappear without anyone noticing? The card in her hand suddenly felt foreign, a thin piece of plastic that had once represented stability. Rachel had used it carefully, responsibly, the way her late husband Mark had taught her to before the accident took him 2 years ago on a rain-slicked highway outside Dayton. Since then, life had become a series of quiet calculations. How long could she stretch a paycheck from the diner? Which bills could wait? Which nights could she skip dinner so Noah could eat more? She had told herself she was managing, that struggle didn't have to look like defeat, but standing there, she felt exposed in a way she hadn't since the funeral. Behind her, she sensed impatience, the subtle shuffle of shoes, the unspoken pressure to resolve the problem quickly. The cashier tried again, then stopped, her expression gentle but firm, the system unyielding. Rachel nodded too many times, murmuring apologies she didn't owe, and reached for the bottle as if muscle memory might carry her through even when money couldn't. She imagined walking back out into the cold Ohio afternoon empty-handed, explaining to Noah later why his medicine would have to wait. If you were forced to choose between pride and your child's comfort, which would you sacrifice? It was then that the world shifted in a way Rachel didn't immediately understand. She felt it first as a pause, a strange stillness, like the moment before a storm breaks. Someone had stepped closer, not with impatience but with intention. She didn't turn right away, too busy swallowing the lump in her throat, too busy trying to hold herself together for Noah's sake. The cashier hesitated, eyes flicking past Rachel, and a new presence seemed to fill the space, calm and steady, as if it had always been meant to be there. Rachel finally looked up and saw a man she didn't recognize, early 40s maybe, with tired eyes that suggested he knew something about long days and longer nights. His name, she would later learn, was Thomas. He wore a simple jacket, nothing flashy, and there was no trace of pity in his expression, only a quiet resolve that made her chest ache in an unexpected way. He didn't rush, didn't draw attention, didn't make a show of generosity. He simply offered help as though it were the most natural thing in the world. In that instant, 1,000 emotions collided inside Rachel. Embarrassment flared, sharp and defensive, followed quickly by gratitude so intense it felt almost painful. She wanted to refuse, to insist she would figure something out, because accepting help meant admitting how close to the edge she really was. But Noah stirred against her, letting out a small, tired sound, and the decision stopped being about her. Sometimes survival demands humility, and sometimes grace arrives whether you feel ready for it or not. As the transaction completed, the sound this time was different, softer, almost reassuring. The cashier's smile widened, and the tension that had knotted Rachel's shoulders for weeks loosened just enough for her to breathe. She clutched the bag with the medicine like it was something sacred, a promise restored. The line behind her moved again, the world resuming its pace, but Rachel felt suspended in a moment that would linger far beyond the store's automatic doors. Outside, the sky was a dull winter gray, the kind that presses low and heavy, but Rachel felt lighter than she had in months. She turned back, wanting to say more than thank you, wanting to explain how much that small act meant, how it would echo through the night when Noah finally slept easier. Thomas simply nodded, as if he understood without needing the words. There was no exchange of numbers, no expectation of repayment, just a shared acknowledgement that kindness had passed between strangers and changed something real. Driving home, Rachel let the tears come, not the panicked tears of before, but slow, quiet ones that carried relief and something like hope. She thought about Mark, about how he used to say that people were mostly good, even when life tried hard to convince you otherwise. She realized how close she had come to believing she was alone, that the world had no room for her struggles anymore. Yet here was proof that compassion could still find you in the most ordinary places, at the exact moment you needed it most. That night, as Noah slept peacefully for the first time in days, Rachel sat at the kitchen table and stared at the medicine bottle, replaying the moment again and again. She wondered about Thomas's life, about the burdens he carried that made him pause instead of turning away. She promised herself that if she ever stood on steadier ground, she would do the same for someone else, not because she owed a debt, but because she had been reminded of the power of seeing